2 days before Christmas, Evelyn Monroe was up before the sun. Her kitchen in Maple Ridge, Oregon, glowed warmly as she seasoned a lemon garlic roast, the scent of rosemary and butter already curling through the house. She hummed to herself as she stirred creamy mashed potatoes, then carefully set the table with the holiday china she only brought out once a year. The centerpiece? A hand-carved wooden sleigh she'd kept since her daughter Lily was 6. This year was supposed to be different. Lily, now 24, had just finished her first year working full-time in Portland and promised she'd come home for the holidays. Evelyn had cleared her schedule, planned the menu to match Lily's childhood favorites, and even wrapped a soft knit sweater she'd made by hand. As the clock crept past 7 p.m., Evelyn sat on the couch, clutching a mug of cider, her eyes flicking to the door with every passing car. When it finally opened, she jumped up, smiling wide. "Sweetheart," she began, arms half raised. But Lily swept past her like she wasn't there and launched herself into the arms of her father, Rick. "Dad, I did it. I got a $6,000 bonus." Rick beamed. "That's my girl." Seconds later, Evelyn's in-laws, Margaret and Walt, shuffled in with matching grins and congratulatory kisses. The living room buzzed with excitement, everyone talking over each other. Evelyn stood slightly to the side, still holding the mug, her smile faltering just a little. Of course she was proud, but part of her waited, hoped for Lily to glance her way, to say, "Thanks, Mom, I missed you," or even, "The house smells amazing." Instead, Evelyn approached gently and offered, "You must be starving. I made your favorite roast chicken. Want me to warm some up?" Lily didn't even look at her. "Mom, can we skip the little guilt trip questions? I just got here." Her words landed like a slap. Evelyn swallowed hard, masking the sting with a smile. She turned to pick up Lily's coat, but Lily had already knelt beside her luggage, pulling out a stack of envelopes. "What's all this?" Margaret asked, peeking over Lily's shoulder. Lily beamed. "Gifts. For everyone who helped me get through my first year." She passed out one envelope after another. Rick received a $1,000 gift card to his favorite fishing store. Her grandparents each got vouchers for a spa retreat. Even her 2 uncles, who barely visited, got gourmet coffee subscriptions. Evelyn watched quietly, her hands clasped. No one had even noticed she hadn't received anything. Then Lily's cousin Nora nudged her. "Hey, Lily, I think you forgot someone." Lily gasped dramatically. "Oh my gosh, you're right." Evelyn's heart lifted just slightly. She stepped forward. Maybe Lily had saved hers for last. Maybe it was something special. Lily reached into her bag, pulled out a small envelope, and knelt down in front of their terrier, Miso. "This one's for you, baby girl," she cooed, slipping the envelope into Miso's festive bandana, "for being the best doggy in the world." Everyone laughed. Evelyn didn't. She froze, her hand still half raised in anticipation. Her heart pounded, but her face stayed neutral. After a moment, she asked, voice soft, "Lily, was there one for me?" Lily didn't hesitate. "Mom, you're home all day. You don't have a job. You cook and clean because you choose to. You didn't help me with my career or anything. Why would I give you a gift?" Silence stretched like a rubber band about to snap. Before Evelyn could respond, Lily clapped her hands. "Oh, one more thing. We're all going to Maui for New Year's. I booked everyone's flights." Everyone cheered. Evelyn blinked. "That's wonderful," she said. "I'll go pack." But Lily stopped her with a raised hand. "Actually, you're not coming. Someone needs to stay and watch Miso. She hates pet hotels. You're the only one I trust." That was the moment something in Evelyn cracked. She stood there as the noise faded into static. Her arms dropped to her sides. The room was filled with laughter, but inside her, everything was silent. She wasn't family anymore. She was the help. The unpaid, unacknowledged help. It was just after 10 p.m. when the last laugh died down in the living room. Plates had been cleared, wrapping paper tossed aside, and the scent of rosemary chicken had long faded into cold leftovers. Evelyn stood silently in the kitchen, staring at the casserole dish untouched by Lily, the mashed potatoes now hardened at the edges. From where she stood, she could hear Margaret bragging about Lily's $6,000 year-end bonus for the third time. "Our little prodigy," she beamed. "And she's booked a Hawaii trip for the whole family. Imagine that generosity at 24. Evelyn wiped her hands on the towel, heart clenched. She stepped back into the living room, holding on to a glimmer of hope. Maybe Lily just forgot to hand her the ticket. Maybe it was still in her bag. "Sweetheart," Evelyn said, trying to sound cheerful, "did I miss mine?" Lily turned, eyes wide like her mother had just asked something ridiculous. "Mom," she sighed, drawing the word out like it hurt her to say it. "You're not coming. Someone has to stay with Miso. I can't leave her alone. And besides, you love taking care of her, right?" The room went quiet. Evelyn's throat tightened, and she forced a weak smile. "Right," she said. "Of course." Rick didn't say a word. He just glanced at her briefly, then back at the TV, pretending he hadn't heard. Margaret looked down, avoiding eye contact. Walt cleared his throat awkwardly. No one stood up for her. No one even blinked. Evelyn walked back into the kitchen like a ghost and stared at the tray of sugar cookies she had spent the afternoon perfecting, Lily's favorite, shaped like snowflakes. Without thinking, her arm shot out and swept the tray off the counter. It crashed to the floor, shattering porcelain and scattering crumbs everywhere. The room erupted. "Evelyn, what is wrong with you?" Margaret barked. "Have you lost your mind?" Walt scowled. Rick stood up now, finally looking at her, not with concern, but fury. "This is exactly why we don't include you in things," he snapped. "You make everything about yourself. Grow up." Lily rolled her eyes, her arms crossed. "Mom, you always do this. It's just a vacation. God, you're so dramatic." Evelyn didn't answer. She couldn't. Her heart was breaking in real time, and all she could think was, "After all I've done, I'm nothing more than the dog sitter." She moved quickly down the hall to the bedroom, slammed the door, and leaned against it, breathing hard. Her hands shook as she grabbed a small overnight bag and tossed in clothes without folding. She picked up her wallet, keys, and phone, and paused just long enough to glance around the room. The same room where she had once rocked Lily to sleep, where she had waited up nights for Rick to come home from work. There was no place for her here anymore. Just as she opened the door to leave, someone blocked her path. It was Nora, Rick's niece, who had always seemed to understand more than she let on. "Evelyn," she whispered, "don't go like this. It's late. Where will you go?" Evelyn met her gaze evenly. "Anywhere but here." "Talk to Lily, she's just overwhelmed." "She made herself clear," Evelyn said. "I'm not her mother, I'm her help." Behind them, Lily's voice called out from the living room, sarcastic and unbothered. "Let her go. She'll be back tomorrow. She always is." That was the final crack. Evelyn walked past Nora and stepped into the cold night. She pulled out her phone and called the only person who had never once made her feel like less, her mother, Grace. When Grace picked up, her voice was warm, familiar, and strong. "Hi, Mom," Evelyn said, trying to hold back tears. "I'm not coming over for Christmas. I need time. I might take a little trip." There was a pause. Then Grace answered gently, "That sounds like a good idea, honey. A change of scenery might do you some good." She didn't ask questions. She never pushed. 10 minutes later, Evelyn received a notification, a $20,000 transfer from Grace. The note read, "For my daughter's real beginning. No guilt, no conditions." Evelyn broke down crying, not from sadness, but from relief. She checked into a small boutique hotel downtown, paid in full for a week, and stood at the window with a mug of hot chamomile tea. Below, the city sparkled with Christmas lights. People passed by bundled in coats, rushing toward someone waiting for them. But Evelyn had no one waiting, and for the first time, that wasn't a tragedy. It was freedom. She sat on the edge of the bed, and her mind echoed with Rick's cold voice, Lily's dismissive laugh, Margaret's disapproving stare. It all crashed over her like a wave she'd been holding back for years. She remembered when Lily was 8 and swore she'd buy her a house one day. When Rick used to call her his rock. when Christmas used to mean something. But now, she was disposable, replaceable, invisible. Evelyn didn't cry again that night. She slept soundly for the first time in a decade, under crisp hotel sheets, the noise of betrayal left far behind. Tomorrow, she'd decide where to go next. But tonight, she finally belonged to herself, to... The next morning, Evelyn woke to a room bathed in soft winter sunlight. It filtered through the hotel's linen curtains, warm against her face. She hadn't stirred all night. For the first time in years, her body had rested without expectation, without pressure. She sat by the window, sipping black coffee from a ceramic mug. The hum of downtown Portland drifted up from below, delivery trucks, morning commuters, the occasional bark of a dog. Everything outside was moving forward. So would she. As she stared at the street below, her phone rang. Rick. Evelyn hesitated, then picked up. His voice came through, low and clipped. "Evelyn, how long are you planning to keep this up?" "No. How are you?" "No. Are you safe?" Just expectation. "I went by your mother's house," Rick continued. "She said you never showed up. I don't care where you are, just get back here." Evelyn didn't flinch. She ended the call without a word. Moments later, a string of messages from Lily lit up her screen. "Mom? Seriously? Aren't you too old for this kind of drama? We leave for Hawaii tonight. Who's going to watch Miso if you don't come back? If anything happens to her, I'll never forgive you." Evelyn stared at the words like they were written in a foreign language. Not one of them asked why she had left. Not one showed concern. Her hand tightened around the mug. This was her daughter, the child she had bathed, rocked to sleep, taught how to read, the one who used to snuggle into her lap and whisper, "You're the best mommy in the whole wide world." And now, she was reduced to dog sitter, not even worth a plane ticket. Tears blurred her vision, but this time she didn't hide them. She let them fall, heavy and quiet, not because she missed them, but because she finally saw them for who they were. She remembered how, years ago, Rick had convinced her to quit her job as a paralegal. "Lily needs more attention," he'd said. "You can always go back to work later." Later never came. Instead, Evelyn poured her life into being a stay-at-home mom. She did the homework battles, the sleepless nights, the school fundraisers, the endless meals, and somewhere along the way, she disappeared into the wallpaper of her own home, present but unseen. The breaking point had always felt far off, but it had arrived quietly, disguised as vacation plans and unspoken expectations. That afternoon, Evelyn walked to a quiet cafe tucked behind an old bookstore. She pulled out her phone and dialed a name she hadn't used in a while. Heather Lee, her former colleague from the law firm. Heather picked up on the second ring. "Ev? Wow, it's been forever." "I need a divorce attorney," Evelyn said calmly. "And I need someone I can trust." There was a beat of silence. "You got it," Heather replied. The next few hours moved like clockwork. Evelyn forwarded bank statements, property records, and digital receipts. She'd kept more than Rick ever realized. Quiet PDFs, screenshots, small notes in her planner about odd financial behavior. She hadn't known what they would mean until now. By sundown, Heather had drafted the first set of documents. The next morning, Evelyn went to the bank. She opened a brand new account under her name only and transferred every dollar that belonged to her. She froze all joint cards and removed Rick's name from every document she could legally change. The teller asked gently, "Would you like to set up security questions?" "Yes," Evelyn said. "Let's make them unguessable." Afterward, she walked to her mother's house. Grace was on the porch pruning the rosemary bush. She looked up and gave a small, knowing smile. "Did you go?" she asked. Evelyn nodded. "It's done. The paperwork's moving." Grace patted the space beside her on the porch swing. "You know, the day you married Rick," she said, "I told myself to trust your path. And I still do. But I also told myself if you ever needed to walk away, I'd be the one to help you pack." Evelyn smiled, the tension in her jaw easing for the first time in days. They sat in silence, the wind threading through the porch beams. Miso, her dog, curled up at Evelyn's feet, blissfully unaware of the storm that had finally passed. That evening, Evelyn booked a one-way ticket to Iceland. She didn't tell Rick. She didn't owe him that. 2 days later, she stood under a sky streaked with northern lights, bundled in a thick coat, her breath clouding the air. Around her, travelers snapped photos, laughed, passed mugs of warm cider. No one knew her story. No one expected anything from her. She took a photo of the sky and posted it with one caption, "Feels like a beginning." Minutes later, another message from Lily arrived. "Are you really spending Dad's money on this ridiculous solo trip?" Evelyn laughed under her breath. She didn't even bother replying. This trip wasn't paid with Rick's money. It was funded with Grace's gift, and Evelyn's decision to finally choose herself. She stood a little taller, the cold wind biting her cheeks. It didn't hurt. Not anymore. For the first time in decades, Evelyn Monroe belonged to no one, and that was the most beautiful thing of all. Rick stared at the empty kitchen. Evelyn's apron still hung by the back door, the same place she'd left it every evening for over 2 decades. The scent of rosemary still clung to the dish towels, but Evelyn was gone, and she wasn't coming back. He poured himself a glass of whiskey and sat at the dining table alone. No one had touched the leftovers from Christmas Eve. The lemon-roasted chicken she had spent hours preparing sat cold in the fridge. Untouched, unacknowledged. Rick had tried calling her 3 times that day, straight to voicemail. "She's bluffing," Lily muttered, scrolling through her phone on the couch. "She always comes back when she cools off." But deep down, Rick wasn't so sure anymore. Evelyn had never gone this far. And the worst part? She hadn't said a word when she walked out. No yelling, no grand exit, just silence. That was what scared him most. 2 days later, a thick manila envelope arrived at the house. The return address, Heather Lee, Esquire. Inside were divorce papers. Rick's hands shook as he read through the pages. Evelyn had listed official separation the same day she left for the hotel. She'd moved her finances, split the accounts, and cited financial manipulation as one of her primary grounds. Lily was the first to see his reaction. "Dad?" she asked, stepping into the room. "Is that from Mom?" Rick didn't answer. He tossed the papers onto the counter and sank into a chair. "She's serious," he finally whispered. "She's really doing it." That afternoon, Evelyn posted a photo from Iceland. She was wrapped in a navy coat, cheeks pink from the cold, standing beneath the green glow of the northern lights. Her caption read, "To breathe freely is a luxury. To finally do it is power." The photo went viral on Facebook among local community circles. Women Evelyn barely knew shared it with comments like, "You go, girl. She's living the dream we were too scared to chase." Finally, someone said, "Enough." Rick's jaw clenched as he scrolled through the comments. None of them knew the sacrifices he'd made, the long hours, the mortgage payments, the vacations he paid for. What about that? Lily's frustration boiled over. "She's ruining everything," she snapped, slamming her phone down. "Now people are talking about me, like I'm some spoiled brat who ignored my own mom." Rick rubbed his temples. "Don't worry, she'll run out of money soon enough. Then she'll come crawling back." But 3 days later, something happened Rick didn't expect. Evelyn's mother, Grace, posted a short message. "To those asking how Evelyn is doing, she's doing just fine, because she finally stopped being everyone's caretaker and started taking care of herself." Attached to the message was a screenshot of a wire transfer from Grace to Evelyn, $200,000. Rick's blood ran cold. That wasn't just vacation money, that was freedom money. "She gave her the house proceeds," he muttered. Lily froze. "Wait, Grandma sold the house?" Rick stood up fast, his chair screeching across the tile. "She gave it to Evelyn. That's why she's acting bold. She's backed now." He reached for his phone, heart pounding. "We need to call Grace. If we can explain—" But Grace didn't answer their calls. Nor did she respond to the cinnamon rolls Lily dropped off at her porch the next morning. Instead, a few days later, Grace sent her own message. "My daughter doesn't need a rescue. She just needed release, and I won't let anyone take that away from her." Rick's desperation began to show. He contacted his lawyer to file a petition for shared financial access, claiming that since the funds were transferred during the marriage, he had a right to a portion of them. But Heather, Evelyn's attorney, was 3 steps ahead. She submitted evidence that the funds were a personal post-separation gift, clearly documented. Even the banknote read, "For Evelyn, to live the life she always deserved." At the preliminary hearing, the judge dismissed Rick's petition. "This is not a marital asset," she ruled firmly. "It's independent property. Mr. Monroe has no claim." As Rick stepped out of the courthouse, cameras from a local women's radio podcast were already rolling. Evelyn had shared her story anonymously for their reinvention series. Her episode, "The Unpaid Wife Who Finally Said No." It climbed the streaming charts overnight. Meanwhile, Lily's own world was crumbling. She'd lost her job during a corporate merger and had secretly maxed out 2 credit cards trying to maintain appearances. She reached out to Evelyn again, this time with soft words and vague apologies. "Mom, I miss you. I didn't mean it like that. I was just overwhelmed." Evelyn didn't reply. She forwarded the messages to Heather instead, adding, "Please document these. I want no legal ambiguity later." Back in their family home, the silence stretched. Rick paced. Lily cried. But neither truly changed. They weren't sorry Evelyn had left. They were sorry they no longer had control. Evelyn Monroe sat by the large window of her new rental in Asheville, North Carolina, a modest craftsman-style home nestled beneath whispering pine trees. The mountain air was clean, quiet, and nothing like the stale tension that had once filled the house she shared with Rick and Lily. It had been exactly 47 days since she walked out, and in that time, Evelyn had transformed. Not just her mailing address, but her very way of being. The first thing she did after the judge denied Rick's petition was set up a financial firewall. With the help of her lifelong friend and attorney, Heather Lee, Evelyn opened a new account with dual authentication protocols, froze all shared lines of credit, and had her name removed from the last lingering joint utility bill. Every connection that once tied her to that house, gone. Next, she updated her will. Rick and Lily, once the default beneficiaries, were removed. In their place, a community shelter for displaced women, a scholarship fund for mature students returning to college, and a note that read simply, "For those who had to start over late, but never too late." Evelyn had never felt more alive. One afternoon in early February, she received a message from Lily. It began with flattery. "Mom, I just wanted to say you're so strong. I admire you so much now. I didn't understand before, but I'm starting to." Attached to the message was a screenshot of Lily's GoFundMe page, asking for donations to rebuild after career burnout. Evelyn didn't respond. She forwarded the message to Heather with a short note. "Flag this, potential financial pressure tactic." That night, Evelyn baked a peach cobbler, not because anyone expected her to, but because she wanted to. She sat on the porch wrapped in a wool shawl, the pie warm beside her, and smiled when her neighbor Carol came over for a slice. They talked about everything but family, sunsets, retirement hiking spots, the new farmer's market. It was the first time in 20 years Evelyn shared something that wasn't stolen by guilt. The next week, a certified letter arrived. Rick was filing a motion for reconsideration. He wanted Evelyn to voluntarily disclose future spending of large assets for the sake of family unity. Heather laughed when she read it aloud. "He doesn't want unity," she said. "He wants oversight." Evelyn folded the paper slowly, then looked out the window at the blooming magnolia tree. "He thinks I'm still playing house. He doesn't realize I've moved on without him." Heather leaned in. "Are you ready to show him how far you've come?" Evelyn nodded. A few days later, Evelyn made a bold move. She applied to become a volunteer treasurer at the local senior center. Not for the resume, she had none, but because she knew how to manage a household budget down to the last penny. When asked for experience, she looked the director in the eye and said, "I managed a home for 27 years without a salary. I know how to keep books tighter than most companies." She was hired on the spot. Meanwhile, Lily's situation unraveled quickly. Her coaching business failed within a month. No clients, no funding. Her credit cards were maxed out. She emailed Evelyn asking to come stay a while just until things got better. This time Evelyn responded, but only with a single sentence. "You're an adult, Lily. Handle it accordingly." That same night, Evelyn updated her phone settings to record all incoming calls. She wasn't going to be caught off guard again. Sure enough, 2 days later, Lily called, sobbing. "I fell on the stairs, Mom. I was alone. I cried for you." Evelyn stayed silent. Lily's voice sharpened. "Did you change your passwords? I couldn't check your bank account for the utilities." That was the final confirmation. Evelyn replied calmly, "I've increased my security measures. For safety. That includes access logs." Lily's tone turned venomous. "Wow. So you really think of me like a stranger now?" Evelyn answered softly. "No. I think of you like someone who forgot what love is supposed to look like." The next morning, Evelyn emailed Heather a voice recording of the call and requested Heather prepare no-contact paperwork. The legal team would handle the rest. By spring, Evelyn had launched a weekly financial literacy workshop at the senior center. Women from all walks of life came: retired teachers, widows, divorcees, single mothers. Evelyn taught them how to read financial documents, set up trust protections, and recognize emotional manipulation masked as family obligations. One woman, Denise, approached her after class. "I thought I was the only one who got left behind in my own house," she whispered. "You've helped me more in 1 hour than anyone has in years." Evelyn smiled. Later that week, she received a formal document from the court. Divorce finalized. It was done. She poured herself a small glass of red wine, stepped out to her garden, and raised it toward the stars. "I'm not just free of them," she whispered. "I'm finally free to be myself." 3 weeks after the court issued the final divorce decree, Evelyn Monroe walked along the shaded path of Riverside Park with a quiet sense of completion in her chest, the kind you don't announce but feel with every breath. Her phone buzzed again. She glanced down and saw another blocked voicemail from Lily. She didn't play it. She didn't even pause. Instead, she stopped by the community center bulletin board and pinned up a flyer for her upcoming workshop, Financial First Aid, Reclaiming Control at Any Age. At 58, Evelyn was finally done justifying her existence to people who only valued what she gave, not who she was. That Saturday, she hosted a potluck in her backyard for the women in her memoir circle and finance class. The sun was soft, the tables dotted with wildflowers, and the hum of easy conversation filled the air. No one asked Evelyn about her past. They simply saw her as she was: strong, centered, free. After dessert, one woman named Joyce leaned over and asked, "Do you ever think about going back? For closure?" Evelyn stirred her iced tea and replied without hesitation, "No. I don't need to reopen a door just to prove I was right for walking out of it." That night, as twilight painted the sky in lavender streaks, Evelyn pulled out a crisp sheet of paper and began a new journal entry. "I no longer live in the shadows of someone else's comfort. I no longer shrink so others can stretch. My worth isn't a reflection in their eyes anymore. It's in my own steady gaze each morning. This life I'm building is quiet, but it's mine, and it's enough." The next morning, a letter arrived, handwritten, no return address. The familiar penmanship was unmistakable. It was from Bess, Evelyn's late mother. She'd mailed it before passing the previous fall, knowing one day Evelyn might need it more than flowers at a funeral. Evelyn unfolded the letter, heart trembling. "If you're reading this, it means you chose yourself. I'm proud of you, not for leaving, but for finally realizing you were never meant to beg for love. You were always enough. Go live like it." Evelyn held the letter against her chest, then looked out the window at her blooming azaleas. No more waiting, no more apologies. She wasn't returning to the woman she used to be. She was blooming into the woman she was always meant to become. One of the most powerful lessons from Evelyn's story is that it's never too late to reclaim your worth. For decades, she sacrificed her identity to serve her family, believing love meant staying silent and supportive. But the truth is, unconditional love does not mean accepting disrespect. As we grow older, the world may try to convince us we've run out of time to dream, to change, to start again. But age is not a barrier to transformation, it's a foundation. Evelyn didn't just walk away from a broken marriage. She walked toward a version of herself she had long forgotten. And when she stopped asking for permission to matter, everything changed. For those in their golden years, her journey is a reminder. You are not invisible. You are not too late. You are allowed to set boundaries, to say no, to protect your peace. Whether it's choosing solitude over toxic company or finally pursuing a dream buried beneath years of service, your life is still yours to shape. You deserve more than survival. You deserve joy.